Call for meeting. It's a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Caldwell,
Here.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Here.
Commissioner Cabo,
Here.
Vice Chair Villaluna is absent. Chair Shaw,
Yeah.
is there a motion to excuse Vice Chair Villaluna?
I'll make the motion. She's sick, so.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
So we're gonna have any public comments? Oh, first pledge. I pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
any public comments?
Thank you, Chair Shaw. We did receive written comments prior to the deadline this afternoon, and City Clerk will read this into the record for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Matsumoto, and Honorable Chair and members of the City Council. We did receive one piece of written correspondence from Murali Vasudevan and expressing support for the Commission and the Cerritos City Council to conclude or move forward with the first responder art project. And that concludes the written correspondence.
So close up public comments. Next, approval of minutes.
Motion to approve?
I have there's a small typo.
Oh.
I mean, it's very small. Under the presentations, I know that we meant to present 2 plaques, but we only presented 1 plaque. So we've got Chair Shaw presented former chairs, Matthew Cobble, if we could make that singular, former chair.
Okay, so motion to amend. I'll accept the friendly motion.
Yes, and I'll second that.
So we got a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kelly.
Okay,
Kelly.
maybe the roll call.
Yeah.
You'd like a roll call vote? Okay. Member Caldwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabo,
Aye.
Chair Shaw,
Yes.
passes 4-0.
Okay. So next item we have on 6A. Review and consideration of pursuant to the City of Cerritos Commission and Committee Scope of Authority Policy. Policy 6.02 of a Commissioner's suggestion for the Commission initiated special evaluation project.
Thank you, Chair Shaw. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize and thank the Fine Arts and Historical Commission for your patience in reviewing this item. As you may recall, this item was scheduled to be reviewed by the Commission in the past November. However, Due to many changes occurring in the city management structure, there was a need to re-review this item at the staff level before finalizing the report. This in no way minimized the importance of the Fine Arts and Historical Commission's request, but an additional level to review the subject matter had to be considered in light of the implementation of this new commission and committee scope of authority policy. As you may recall, in July of 2023 at the Fine Arts Commission meeting, Commissioner Cobble expressed an interest in pursuing a commission-initiated special project to evaluate the feasibility of establishing a virtual museum in the city. He submitted a document for review to the commission containing information he had compiled concerning virtual museums and related resources. Pursuant to the provisions of the California Brown Act, the commission provided consensus direction to schedule a future agenda item to review and consider Commissioner Cobble's suggestion for a proposed commission-initiated special evaluation project and potential preparation of a request to the City Council for authorization. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleagues to the Commission, our City Clerk, Vita Barone, who with a team of city policy experts, including 2 members of the City Council and members of the executive team, developed this policy, which is to become the guidance for the various city, commission, and committee members to formally address the City Council on matters that commission committees may want to recommend as part of their service to their respective commission or committee, and the betterment of the programs that they are appointed to advise the City Council on. Additionally, we have with us Annie Hilton, our city librarian, who provide an update of what the library is doing on their website and the historical information that is being provided and plans for the near future. At this time, I would like to ask City Clerk Vita Barone to present the Commission and Committee with the scope of authority policy to you at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Matsumoto. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Fine Arts and Historical Commission. Thank you for having me here tonight to walk you through the steps of the city's new policy concerning how commissions and committees can propose evaluation projects for the City Council's consideration. Before I go into that, though, I would like to extend my gratitude to Assistant City Manager Kathy Matsumoto for her leadership and truly being a champion of the Fine Arts and Historical Commission and the city's endeavors related to the arts. I would also like to acknowledge our city librarian and marketing manager, Annie Hilton, who is also a champion of the arts and local history, and for her assistance with tonight's presentation. In just a moment, I will be turning the presentation over to Ms. Hilton to discuss some of the online historical elements offered on the city's newly launched library website, as that factors into the subject matter before the commission this evening. And next slide, please. And I'll turn your attention to the screen. As Ms. Matsumoto mentioned, the City Council adopted a policy and procedure manual in 2022 that standardized and memorialized uniform practices across the board so that everyone, elected and appointed officials, commissions, committees, and city staff, are moving forward in the same direction with regard to the conduct of city business processes, operations, and services. One of these policies was the Commission and Committee Scope of Authority Policy, also known as Policy 6.02. Next slide, please. Prior to the adoption of Policy 6.02, the Commission could be assigned an evaluation project by the City Council, but there really wasn't a mechanism or way for the commissions as advisors to come up with ideas on their own and then forward those requests by commission majority approval to the City Council for authorization of commission evaluation of the concept. The City Council and staff did recognize that there was a need for this type of process to support the commissions as advisory bodies to the City Council. And at this time, we really want to commend the Fine Arts and Historical Commission, and in this case, also Commissioner Cobble, for taking the initiative and doing exactly what the City Council wants their commissions to do. You are the eyes and ears of the community. You are the city council's ambassadors and on-the-ground knowledge base in Cerritos, and it is your commendable work as advisors to come up with great ideas for special evaluation projects to study concepts that the city could potentially benefit from. So this commission is to be commended for being the first one to go through the Policy 6.02 process, as one of your colleagues suggested an idea at a regular meeting, just like Policy 6.02 requires. Next slide, please. The slide on the screen shows a summarized version of how the new Policy 6.02 process works and the steps the commission must take before starting any evaluation work. At the top bubble, if you will, during a public meeting, during commission reports, a commissioner can ask for a commission consensus to schedule a future agenda item to consider their idea for a special evaluation project. So check done on July 20th, 2023. Commissioner Cobble stated that he had an idea for a special evaluation project and obtained commission consensus to place the item on a future commission agenda. As you all know, but for the community's understanding, discussion or decision-making on any matter that is not noticed on the public meeting agenda is prohibited by the California Brown Act. And just like the City Council, commissioners have to bring their initial idea up during a public meeting during commission reports and get commission consensus to have it placed on a future agenda for any further discussion. Commissioners cannot schedule agenda items independently prior to any meeting. They have to do it just like the council does, by first gaining consensus during the commissioner reports section of the agenda. So with no further staff or commission work conducted on this item, the agenda report was placed on tonight's agenda pursuant to Policy 6.02, and this is at the second bubble as you see on the screen. First, the commission has to discuss and decide whether Commissioner Cobble's idea to evaluate the concept of a virtual history museum has enough support to move forward with a request to the City Council for authorization to commence evaluation work. Next slide, please. I just want to note at this juncture, and this is really, I know that many of our commissioners are aware of this, but also for the community's benefit, that if there is commission majority approval tonight to submit the request to the City Council, that the City Council will not be considering approval of the virtual history museum concept itself. The City Council will consider the Commission's request to evaluate the virtual history museum concept pursuant to Policy 6.02 for the purpose of returning the Commission's recommendations to the City Council for their final review and consideration. Even we, as city staff, are prohibited from doing any further work or research on this item until the City Council authorizes it through the Policy 6.02 process. The City Council is the only policy-making body of the city and is the only authorized body which can direct city staff work and resources. I also want to pause here because it gets there's a lot of steps to see if there's any questions from the Commission on the Policy 6.02 process thus far.
Just a point of clarification. It's this way because the City Council is the elected body of the voters, and they they're responsible for anything that's budgetary, including use of staff time and city resources. Is that not correct?
Honorable Mayor, Honorable Chair, and members of the Commission, sorry, I have some habits. That is correct. Commissioner Cobble is absolutely correct. The City Council directs their employees, the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, treasurer, and through them, they then direct staff work. So the City Council is the only one that can direct city staff work, budget, resources, equipment. They're the only body that can do so. They are the policy-making body of the city. That is absolutely correct. And
So that means whatever this commissioner propose has to be first approved by before we go further, has to be approved by the council.
that's correct. What you can propose is an idea to study. Then you said if the commission gets the majority to forward that request The council will consider that at a public meeting, and we'll get there in the next steps. And then if they say, okay, you have a go to study it, then it would come back to this commission to study the item, not implement the item. The council is the only one that can implement a project. And that's the normal process. But now you have a way that you can come up with ideas and ask the city council if it's okay for you to study them. Before, it was the council coming up with the ideas and sending it to you. So now this new process, the city council has given you that process.
So just to clarify, we're given the authority to recommend new ideas.
Correct. You still have to get
Approval from-
consensus of your committee members first. Because if you can imagine, each individual commissioner or council member, it works the same exact way for them, could come up with each of their own individual ideas, and then staff would be kind of working in a million different directions. In this way, we have to make sure that there is consensus among your commission that the idea that one of you had, the rest of you agree with it, that yeah, this idea we think might be good for the city. We're going to agree to make a request to the city council to let us study it. Same exact process as the council has.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Only the council has one less step because they are the decision makers.
Right.
While we have a few more steps where we send it to ask for permission, they send it back to us to do the actual study along with staff help and staff's recommendations. And then whatever comes from that, provided it gets sent back down to us, would then be sent back up to the council. And it may bounce around a few times.
Yes. Thank you, Chair and members of the commission. My report's done. I'll see you later. Have a great night. That's exactly correct. You very, very well summarized. And so thank you for being the first group, because I know this group is very educated on this process and familiar with this process because of your past leadership in service. And so really a lot of this explanation in detail is for the community's benefit and for the other commissions and committees who are watching as well. But all those comments are exactly correct. So thank you very much. If there's no more questions at this juncture, I will continue with the presentation. And next slide, please. So the next step in the process tonight, after we conclude the staff presentation, the chair will open the floor to the commissioners to ask any questions concerning the policy 6.02 process, although we already have been asked questions and provided some responses. After those questions are concluded, the chair will open the floor to public comment, and after they're closed, then that's when the real fun begins. The commission will then discuss and deliberate whether there is majority support for the commission to move forward with the request to the city council to authorize you to conduct further evaluation, along with city staff, of the feasibility and need for a city virtual museum concept. In this case, staff recommends the chair start the discussion after the close of public comments with comments from Commissioner Cobble, since he was the original initiator of the idea for the special evaluation project. Next slide, please. If the commission decides by majority approval to send a request to the city council for authorization to commence the study, policy 6.02 requires that city staff prepare a city council agenda report with the official commission request attached to it and schedule it on a future city council meeting agenda for their review and consideration. If the policy 6.02 process works as designed, and we hope that it does, the city council could authorize the commission, along with city staff, to commence evaluation work on the virtual history museum concept for the purpose of developing recommendations that would be referred back to the city council for their consideration, exactly as Commissioner Cobble had summarized it. I do want to note that if after the commission conducts its evaluation, if authorized, and if the city council, after reviewing the commission's recommendations, decides to approve the recommended service, project, or program, it is ultimately a city service administered by city staff with city resources on behalf of the city council. The commission itself serves in an advisory-only capacity and does not direct the ongoing work or resources of the city. That does not mean that there's not an ongoing role for the commission to play. You currently have ongoing roles right now evaluating public art concepts, just the public the Parks and Recreation Commission reviews ongoing programs. But I want to make sure that for minimization of liability and risk exposure, that the commission is aware that only authorized city staff can interact with, administer, and oversee city resources and equipment, whether they are virtual or physical. And at this time, I'm going to take another pause to see if there's any questions on the policy process thus far.
You said there's for legal reasons. Would you, with regards to any virtual resources, would you care to go into detail about some of the new changes in law with regards to resources that would potentially open us up to legal liability?
Yes. Generally, an honorable chair and members of the commission, we are prohibited because of the Brown Act to go too deeply into these types of questions. But I do think it's important that there is an understanding of why city staff is the only ones that can, implement, be involved directly with city resources, equipment, are authorized, and trained to do so. I think what Commissioner Cobble is referring to are digital assets. Digital assets, in the previous years when the websites were just coming up and online resources became available, it was kind of the Wild West, to use that phrase. There weren't digital rights or property rights assigned to digital assets, but now there's a whole legal field concerning digital assets, and the city could be held liable if we are inappropriately utilizing people's digital property. So even though it's online, people still have rights to that. And if you go on even Wikipedia or any picture that's available online, you can click right and you can see the metadata or who it's assigned to. And I know in speaking with our city librarian and marketing manager, when we were kind of preliminarily going over this concept, the city has gone through those digital rights process, or actually the rights process for photographs, and you have to get special authorization to use them. Just because you got the rights or received the rights to use them in a book, you can't use those same rights to use them electronically. There's a very deep law base now, or legal base, that deals with digital assets, the curation of digital assets, digital property rights. And I'm so sorry, Annie, I'm venturing into an area that I know that you have a bit more expertise. I don't know if you would like to weigh in on that question or.
I think you explained it very well. And oftentimes it can come down to the agreement that somebody initially entered into. For example, the book scenario, if you obtained rights to use an image from the owner of that image in a publication, and then later decide, oh, I want to put this on a website, that would be a separate agreement, unless you initially had an agreement that covered any and all use in all types of media. So yes, it is correct that organizations and individuals need to be careful about using copyrighted material and ensuring that they have the rights and the permissions to do so.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hilton, for your expertise in that area. And this is just one example of the careful consideration that should this come back to the commission for their review, there are a lot of items that we'll need to review and discuss. But most importantly, it's important for the commissions and the committees to know that we work for the city and the city council, and the commission and committees serve as advisory bodies. However, that scope of responsibility does not translate into actually sitting behind a computer, putting input, scanning images, in the context of this project. There's a lot of roles for the commission to play, but I just want to make sure that it's clearly understood for this body and for the public and members of the other commissions and committees that the ongoing work of city project services and staff is the wheelhouse of the city council, if that answers the question. And I believe we're on the next slide. So now that we know how the policy 6.02 works, I want to bring the presentation back to the actual matter before the commission tonight. Commissioner Cobble brought forth an idea in the correct manner. It's on the agenda tonight to consider if a request should be made to the city council, and we want to provide a couple of options for the commission's consideration. Option one is pretty straightforward. Once the floor is open for commission discussion on this item, a vote needs to be taken to approve by commission majority the request to the city council to authorize, and then we put the language here because the policy requires that you define a scope. It has to be, more than just we want to study something. It's got to be a sentence or two about the project. So in this case, we took the material that was presented, the concept that was presented, and took a stab at a starting place. So the Fine Arts and Historical Commission will conduct a preliminary evaluation of the feasibility of establishing a virtual history museum in the city and forward the resulting advisory recommendations to the city council for their final review and consideration. And for the commission's benefit, we also provided a draft letter in the agenda report as Exhibit 5. So correct, on the very last page, thank you. If it is approved by majority approval of the commission tonight, that exact letter, or you can modify the language to a certain degree because you're limited to conducting evaluation. And so at this point, it really wouldn't be appropriate to kind of take a deep dive into exactly the elements that will be considered because we can't even do that without getting first council approval. So we just want to make sure that the concept has been appropriately memorialized by us to make sure that the commissioner's concept is correct. It's not evaluating something else, and present it in a format that the commission is comfortable with forwarding to the city council. And so that's option one. That's pretty much a straight shot to the city council for the evaluation. So then option two, the next slide. Thank you. Option two is another option for the commission to consider. Commissioner Cobble really did do an incredibly thorough job in thinking through, or rather thinking down the line about things the city council, the commission, and professional staff may have to take a look into or consider if the council does authorize the commission to evaluate this concept. So thank you to Commissioner Cobble for that. I do want to reiterate to the commission that this level of legwork, the document that Commissioner Cobble submitted is not required of you as commissioners if you have an idea you want to float under policy 6.02. So Commissioner Cobble, you set the bar really high and we appreciate that, but we don't want to discourage other commission members or committee members that oh my gosh, I have to do all this research. No, a sentence or two, an idea, a concept that can be floated or kicked around by the commission is enough. We don't, you really did set the bar really high and we very much appreciate it, but we do want to let the remainder of the commission know that level is not required, that it's enough a sentence or two or a phrase, or maybe even verbally, that's enough to request consensus to place it on a future agenda. Commissioner Cobble did in the past take the time to visit our office and examine external resources on his own time, and that's certainly to be commended, but I just want to make sure that that's not required for you to bring up an idea if you feel it has merit. However, since Commissioner Cobble did take the time to formulate his ideas and submit them in writing, we as staff, or at least those staff members whose service areas are involved in some of the elements identified by Commissioner Cobble, did take a quick look, and we are very pleased to let you know that many of the elements suggested by Commissioner Cobble are either already provided online or scheduled to be provided online as part of the City Council approved and funded refresh of all of the city's websites. Not all of the elements that Commissioner Cobble had suggested are already being provided, but many of them are. And so we have here on the screen as they apply to the office of the city clerk treasurer, the current official city website provides on-demand, free online access to certain official city records, many of which must be provided online pursuant to state laws and regulations. I have two separate slides, so Annie, I'll let you know when to move forward. These online records include public meeting agenda packets and video recordings, public meeting minutes, the elected and appointed officials' local appointments list, Fair Political Practices Commission campaign disclosure and economic interest statements for elected and appointed officials. Next slide, please. The Cerritos Municipal Code, the Cerritos City Charter, and Cerritos General Plan. The City Council has also authorized funding in the approved fiscal year 2023-24 budget to prepare the city's electronic content management system for implementation of a public search portal. The portal will provide interested parties and members of the public free online and on-demand access to additional official city records, including resolutions, ordinances, and other official documentation. We as internal staff have access to that infrastructure to facilitate our research, facilitate business continuity. Should our systems go down, we still have, or hope it doesn't happen, but in case something happens to our physical records, we have redundancy. But the goal is to turn that portal out to the public so that you can conduct your own research. If you have a topic you're interested in, you can look and see if council has ever adopted a resolution on that item or an ordinance, or look at maybe some other agreements. We have several prioritized documents and objects that we're looking to queue up, not only for internal staff's benefit, but also for members of the public or any interested parties that are interested in doing research on the city. As I mentioned earlier, all city websites are, right as we speak, being upgraded, and some have already launched, which also feature many of the virtual or online historical elements suggested by Commissioner Cobble. The library's new site has already launched, and at this time I'll turn the presentation over to Ms. Hilton to go over the historical elements that are featured there.
Thank you, Ms. Barone. Good evening, Honorable Chairperson Shaw and members of the Commission. I'm very pleased to present you with an overview of the new local history page within the new library website. So here we have our Cerritos Library website at cerritoslibrary.us. And over here on the navigation, we have About the Library, which presents this drop-down menu. And here we have our local history page. And on this page, we have a chronicle of the development of the city. And this includes videos, photographs, and text. So as an example, the first video is from Dairy Valley to Cerritos, which chronicles the development of a very successful agricultural community into the ideal city of Cerritos. We also have the video Cerritos Our History, which features interviews with community members who shared their recollections of Dairy Valley and also the development of Cerritos. The text is arranged chronologically, and as an example, there is a section called A Brand New City, the 1950s. And this takes us to a section with pictures of the shovels that were used for the commemoration of the groundbreaking of the Dairy Valley City Hall. We have some pictures of the speeches and dedication, rather groundbreaking event. And here we have the local officials with a dairyman and a calf, a Holstein. And then the section continues on to talk about Dairy Valley and how it developed. And then we go into the next section, which talks about the development, the transition to the name City of Cerritos. And here we have an aerial photo of a dairy farm. And here we have the elected officials at the time celebrating the 8th anniversary of Dairy Valley. And this is a gentleman working on the construction of Gar High School. And you can see a dairy in the background, kind of a transitional picture. And this photo features Governor Ronald Reagan with the City Council and this was commemorating the name change from Dairy Valley to Cerritos back in 1967. And so the content continues on, and we have the family that purchased the very first tract home in Cerritos when the development started changing from agriculture to a suburban community. And so the content continues on and chronicles the city as it moves forward and became the city that we know today. So that concludes my presentation, a brief overview of the content that we have that goes on further all about the city history. And at this time, City Clerk Vita Barone will continue with her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hilton. The city's new main website is scheduled to launch by the end of this fiscal year, and staff, literally as we speak, are inputting content into the new site and rearranging content, such as access to historical elements and records, into a consolidated landing page, similar to a virtual history museum. So thank you to Commissioner Cobble for taking the time to think these items through, formulate thoughts, and truly anticipate some of these needs for the community. The new websites as a whole seek to educate and inform the public, facilitate research, and make seeking and finding city information much easier. So with this in mind, option 2 for commission consideration is to give the commission the opportunity to take a look at the new city websites via staff presentation. Take a look at a preliminary consolidated landing page that links to many of these various historic and official record elements mentioned by Commissioner Cobble in his suggestion, and then make a determination at that time on more accurately defining the scope of the special evaluation project. If option 2 is approved tonight, we would come back to you at your first scheduled meeting after the new city website is launched, provide you with a presentation, and then you would make the determination at that time of further definition and scope of the special evaluation project. Next slide, please. Before I turn the presentation back over to Ms. Matsumoto, I want to put my city clerk and Brown Act hat back on and remind the commission that staff is limited tonight on how deeply we can go into responding to questions concerning the specifics of a virtual history museum element or project, or any deep dives into the city website's refresh. As first, we have not been authorized by the City Council to commence research or any work on the concept of virtual history museum. And second, discussion of the city's websites are not items for considerations on this meeting's agenda. They have not been properly noticed. So if we get into a line of question that is venturing outside of the scope, we want to make sure that you're having robust discussion, and we'll monitor if the line of questions kind of ventures outside of the scope of tonight's agenda item and could be a potential violation of the Brown Act. And we'll let you know, we'll monitor that. But of course, we want to encourage robust discussion so the commission can make their determination on either option 1 or option 2. And at this time, I will turn the presentation back to Ms. Matsumoto for concluding remarks and recommendations.
Thank you, Vita and Annie, for your presentations. At this time, are there any other further questions that the commission has of any of the staff?
You said the city's website is scheduled to launch within the end of the fiscal year. Could you give us a time frame as far as what that would be exactly?
So the end of the honorable chair and members of the commission, the city's fiscal year concludes June 30, 2024. So like I mentioned before, we are all meeting, inputting. We just recently all went to training. The communications division provided and produced a style guide, so everybody's consistent. So if you're on one page, it looks the same language, the same style, easy to read on all pages. And then we're also meeting to make sure there's not redundancy. So for example, right now, as it applies to my area, my sphere of authority, our stuff is all over the place. We've got one commissioner information here, we've got council information there, we've got FPPC documentation here. We're consolidating and collapsing that to further refine, make it easier. When we talked about a consolidated landing page, we're having meetings internally to make sure that we're grouping or aggregating similar content or links to make it easier to facilitate the public's interest in being informed. And one of the ideas that came up out of that was having this kind of consolidated links page for historical elements and records. And we're doing that right now as we speak. It is a lot of work. I won't deny that, because we have to think through how would an external user want to access this information. So right now, that's all happening real time. And I know we are all eagerly anticipating having that launched, because it minimizes questions. Now the community and members of the public or interested parties find it easier. They don't have to call and ask, hey, where do I find this on your website? We're doing that legwork right now. So we're hoping that it's sooner than June 30th, but please do extend us a little bit of grace to make sure that we do it correctly. But we hope to have that launched. I hope I'm speaking, on behalf of City Manager Robert Lopez and his team about that time or before, hopefully.
And is it correct that city staff is actually doing an audit of what we have with regards to historical records?
So, Chair and members of the commission, I just want to speak generally on this item. As I mentioned earlier tonight in the report, the City Council authorized in this budget for our office to conduct an audit of our off-site records, because we have over 3,000 boxes of records from the beginning of Cerritos time, right? So the beginning of Cerritos in 1956, we have some of those records, but over the years, with different people managing those projects and things getting shipped off and then potentially forgotten about, we were authorized graciously by the City Council with funding to conduct an audit. And so we are kind of midway through that audit now to identify which boxes are official city records and kind of which boxes are non-records but may have some historical value to the city. We could open one of these boxes that we've had for forever. It's stored in off-site storage, and it could be golf towels. Or we could open it up and it could be a treasure trove of pictures. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're properly identifying those boxes, digitizing the records or placing them into our system for off-site records management to make sure that they're properly archived. And then if boxes are not able to be identified, we're going to physically go through those boxes once we kind of narrow, the ones that are kind of missing information, and find out what's there. So to a certain degree, I just don't want to mischaracterize that as if we know for sure we have pictures and historical ephemera. We may or may not have that. It may be magazines. It may be newspaper clippings. But we're going through that process right now. And thank you for the question.
It's a website you said you're working. Do you know how many percentage you've done on the legwork on the?
Well, as I mentioned, thank you, Chair and members of the commission, for your question. Tonight, discussion of the city's website is not on the agenda. So I want to make sure I'm protecting you as the legislative body, because we don't get in trouble for violations of the Brown Act. The commission does, or the agency does. And so we want to make sure that we're guiding you. We're currently underway. The council has urgency. We've been directed by council to get a move on. The library's site has launched, the CCPA's has launched, and the city's website, because it's the most broad. It has the most, comprehensive content. There's a lot of moving pieces. I especially would like to get it launched, because as a city clerk, I get a ton of questions. I get a lot of calls from residents, from members of the public. So we are working, how shall I say it, furiously to get it done. It's not a project where the council or city staff are delaying. We're doing as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And that is, we did discuss that matter with City Manager Robert Lopez to make sure that we were all on track for this agenda report, to anticipate those types of questions that might come up. And we feel comfortable with targeting the June 30th around that time as, or potentially sooner for the launch. And that's not to delay this process at all. I mean, you do have option one where you can move forward, but really in a sense, we're going to have to go through and let the council know that a lot of the stuff is already happening or underway. If we take option two, and that's not to push you in a specific direction, it's just to distinguish between the two. You have an opportunity to take a look at the websites yourself and then say, hey, we want to maybe focus our attention on evaluating this component versus stuff that's already there, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
So at this time, we'd like to remind the commission that the focus of this staff report is to familiarize and introduce you to the new policy and procedure that has been set forth by the city council. So that's why we have to focus just on the policy and not on too much of the project scope that you may be considering. So I think this time staff would like to go over the recommendations quickly with you again. And the two options that the commission is to decide upon tonight is to either go with option one, and that is to discuss this item and to send a letter of request with a defined scope of what the commission would like to study. That is the first option. The second option is to evaluate and decide by majority approval to continue this item till after the new website is launched, and to evaluate it at that time and send your request to the city council at that point. And you may be able to refine what is to decide and define what is needed to fulfill the request of the commission. So with that, I'd like to turn this back over to the commission and to Chair Shaw to open this for commission review and to public comment. Thank you. That concludes our presentation tonight, and we'll be happy to answer any other questions.
So let's discuss on all the commissioners what they have to say on this project.
I think in light of the information about this refurbishment of the city's websites and some of the things that they're looking to add, that we really would be, I guess, should start that sentence again. I think that, again, in light of the city's website and the changes that they're making, that it only makes sense for us to go with option two. Because otherwise we're doing double work perhaps. We don't know what resources are already available and being posted. It could be, again, that we just come back and maybe add a landing page and, recommend links to different places or something, add a few things or whatever. But I just think that just makes the most sense.
I concur with Commissioner Kelly with that. Why reinvent the wheel when a lot of work has been done by the city staff? I think we owe them their hard work, and I think we need to evaluate and see what's been done, and then just add or refine what needs to be refined. But I do agree with you that I prefer the option two, because sounds like a lot of work has been done, and I don't want that to be put to waste or put on the wayside, because that is time and money from the city that's been given to have that developed.
Well, seeing as we have 2 votes for option 2 already, what I'd like to make a motion for what's written there, and if we could do March or May or July, just in case because we don't know when the site's going to be launched, right?
Well,
Honorable,
June.
Honorable Chair and members of the commission, we will bring, and I'm correct,
If
we'll
it's
bring it
finished
back, we will
early.
bring it back as soon as they're launched.
Okay, so
Because we want to make sure, this is your good work. This is your good ideas. We do not in any way want to have it be misinterpreted that we're trying to delay this project. This is your good idea. This is why the policy is in place. We actually won't be doing our jobs if we don't bring it back, you know, when we need to speak to our bosses. So as soon as the next available meeting after the city's website's launch, that we can get this item on your agenda, and you meet every other month, we'll put it on.
yeah, that's why I suggested adding March or May or July to staff's recommendation that's in the report. It only says May or July meeting. If it finishes before, because our meeting is the third Thursday of the month of March, if it launches before then, if it could be brought up at our next meeting, then that would be it would move this process forward, because I know isn't the city clerk's office dealing with some election information during the summer months, if I remember correctly?
Honorable Chair and members of the commission, our work does not stop because of elections. Elections are part of our
No,
regular
but
job.
I mean, it would be one more thing for the city clerk's office to deal with in addition to the elections.
Well, we appreciate it, and we would be, and
So
we're honored that you
it-
think of us,
it-
and we will do it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yes.
My point is, if the site goes up in March and before our next meeting, and we can then see it at the March meeting, then it moves it kind of out of the city clerk's window potentially, as far as the elections, any elections.
Advanced work that
Advanced
we do.
work.
Yes, thank you.
You do.
Honorable Chair and members of the commission, Commissioner Cobble is right. I know a lot of people believe that election is only election day. We commence our election preparation work and legal compliance items that we have to take care of well in advance, and starting right after the turn of the fiscal year. So thank you for being considerate of that. And I'm going to defer to your commission liaison and secretary, Ms. Matsumoto, to make sure if we put in the language of, March or May or July.
May
is
or
that-
July is already in the
Okay, so
recommendation.
just adding March.
So we're saying March or in front of May.
That's fine.
Yeah, and we can
Um,
amend the letter to have that scope and include that language.
Yes.
So I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Oh, yes, I
The
apologize.
staff report on page 3.
The motion to add March.
To add March.
To add March or May or July.
And honorable mayor, honorable chair, and members of the commission, and thank you, Ms. Hilton, for the reminder. We do need to take public comments on this item
Okay.
before a motion or a vote can
Do
take
have
place.
members of the public
Thank you, Mr. Vasudevan.
Sorry about that. Jumped the gun.
So we have public comments? Yes.
In fact, I came, I think, 7 minutes late, so I wanted to address another item which is not on the agenda. I came here, I think, 7:07, so I will speak about it later, but this is for this particular agenda. First, I want to speak about this agenda item. First of all, Happy New Year. And yeah, I have not been to this renovated council chambers, right? It looks really great. Thank you, Commissioner Coble, for for doing this, bringing this agenda item and doing all the what you call research. Because I looked at the agenda report. I think, as clerk said, right, it's a very thorough job. Actually, I would like to propose maybe a third option. Maybe it is an extension of option 1. And let me tell you why I am proposing it, okay? I'm an IT professional. I do build websites, software application, right? So my suggestion is that this is a great opportunity for us. Why? Because instead of waiting for the website, city website to be complete in July, let us say, and then doing something, because I know how IT firms work, because I used to play that role. So we like to nickel and dime every opportunity, okay? So we would love to come back in July and say that, yes, we will create a landing page, which will be a wishy-washy thing, and I will charge you, because that's my opportunity, right? Whereas if you speak now, if you can take it to the vendor, I don't know how the terms and conditions are done. So assuming that the website is being built, this is a great opportunity to influence them and have a history page or area the way we want done. This is almost like, waiting for a house to be built and then saying that, hey, can I add a room? Saying that, hey, we would like to have this room slightly modified, so can you accommodate this before you build it, right? Makes sense, right? So again, I have not seen the contract with the IT firm, because again, assuming that there is some wiggle room there, this may be our opportunity instead of going for option 2. Because option 2, the landing page, it sucks, because I can see how it works. That's not what we want to do, okay? Landing page is an afterthought. Basically, as clerk said, right, have a page and put links to all over, right? I mean, yeah, it works, but just imagine that option versus creating something which is more, meshed into that, the usability and, user experience, things like that. So there's an opportunity there. So I would suggest, send it to ASAP, send it to the council, and explore if we have a wiggling room there to negotiate with this company. Assuming that we have 6 more months, right? So assuming that it's not done, probably foundation is laid out, rooms are getting built, so now we have an opportunity. I don't know, right? So that may be an option. And other 2 points I would like to make is that, again, because of my IT experience, I'm just telling you, this is an opportunity for us. Typically, when you do that, it may be a good idea to understand, to see how public is coming, using this site. So request web analytics, traffic report, maybe every 3 months, to see how our history pages are being, who is coming to this? How many are coming from Cerritos? How many are coming from our neighboring cities, Norwalk, this one? And how many are coming from US? How many are coming from abroad? You'll be surprised, right? So because that shows, how are we only 6 of us interested in Cerritos history, or is public really interested, right? And it will be good to know. And also, it will be good to see how good the website is. Because if it is really good and helpful, you will see the traffic going up. And there are some things you have to do, like, you can talk to the IT department saying that how to make it visible. Like, Google should be able to pick it up so that anybody looks for, how will people come to the site, right? So that's like a kind of a, these are IT stuff, right? And then last point is that also try to add a feedback form so that visitors can give you some feedback regarding what they like, what they don't like, what they like to be added, or something like that, right? So these are all great ideas to make sure that the investment is really, we are making the best out of that. So these are what I would suggest. And I hope, and if you have any question, let me know. I'm available. So yeah, that's all I have. If you have any question, I can answer now or later.
I just have a question of staff. it would any of you like to address
Okay,
his comments with regards to what he's requesting of his idea to us with regards to what our scope is vis-a-vis what he is requesting as far as our potential motion.
Well, if the commission were to go with option 2, that doesn't preclude them for going to option 1 and requesting city council evaluation of a study after we've launched the website. You know, we can always, it's flexible. This is what we're doing with the websites and the information we're going to be providing. It's going to be like a living document. There will always be changes and updates to what we're doing. We're not, once it's launched, it's not going to be like that forever. It's going to be constantly changing. And at that time, you know, we can get feedback, and commission can also comment and suggest other things that, you know, pertinent to just the website. But if you feel like what we've presented at that time doesn't suit the needs of the request, it doesn't address everything that the commission wants to see, then I would suggest you go with option 1.
And if I may, Honorable Chair and members of the commission, first, I do want to thank Mr. Vasudevan, obviously, for his spirited remarks, and he's very involved, and we talk a lot on the phone, and we do appreciate his involvement very much. I do want to remind, this is where I'm putting my clerk hat back on, that what is before the commission tonight is not review of the websites, input on the websites. It is not review of a virtual history museum project. You have not been granted that authorization by the city council yet. Tonight, what's in front of the council and the commission, and the only item that the commission can address tonight is whether or not they want to forward a request to the city council for authorization to study a virtual history museum project or concept, to return recommendations back to the city council. That's all that you can vote on tonight. We can't even go into any sort of deep dive about what elements of virtual history museum would include. Staff has not been authorized. I have not been authorized to do research or work or comment on what those elements would be. What I am here for, and what this item is to present policy 6.02, and then Commissioner Cobble did obtain commission consensus to place his idea on this agenda to see if there's enough support on the commission to request city council authorization to study a virtual history museum concept. Not tonight, we can't discuss what it would include, what would be on it, what a web page would look like. We're presenting that additional information to let you know that some of the items are already done. They're done today. We're not waiting. Like the campaign statements, all of that's already available online. That doesn't even have to wait. The city council agendas, the commission agendas, the videos, links to the minutes, that's already there. Those were elements that were suggested by Commissioner Cobble. So that's why we brought up those concepts, but we are not tonight reviewing, you're prohibited from reviewing the city's website or doing any further work, deep dive into a virtual history museum. And hopefully that's not confusing. But
we can do it on our own time, but we can't use staff time to do that deep dive. We have to do it on our own with what is currently available. Is that
on your own as private residents? You can knock yourselves out and do any research you like, but using the commission's time, the city time, this meeting, I apologize, that is also prohibited. Tonight, really what you can evaluate is there enough support on this commission for Commissioner Cobble's idea to send a request to the city council to ask them, hey, do we have permission to study this idea a little bit further? And then with the idea of sending recommendations back to the city council. We're not discussing all of the elements of the virtual history. We're not prepared to do that. The council hasn't authorized you or us to do that.
And this scope is to protect us and the city from any potential liability that may arise from it.
That is correct, Chair, Honorable Chair, and members of the commission. As many of you watch the city council meetings, an individual council member cannot direct city staff work. They have to obtain consensus from their fellow council members for any staff work or council work, meaning on the dais, in a public meeting, on a concept. They have to go through these same steps that you have to go through. And now this policy gives you a vehicle and a method to do so. But I just want to make sure that these are we love public comments, we love public debate, we love getting the phone calls and inquiries from our informed and educated residents. But I want to make sure that we're doing our job by guiding you in the proper direction.
Under California state law.
Under California state law. Thank you so much.
So that means we're back to what we have. So what do you recommend is, and I guess is to get 6 A or B, right?
I do believe
Option
there's a
1
motion
and,
on the floor.
and two.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was, and if I'm, correct me, Ms. Schaefer, if I'm incorrect, but I believe there was a motion forwarded by Commissioner Cobble to move forward with option 2 with the language as proposed in Exhibit 5, but also add,
March
modify the language to March,
or
to schedule
March or
or
in front of May.
May or July.
Yeah.
I would
So-
second that motion.
Roll call.
Commissioner Caldwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Yes.
Commissioner Cobble,
Okay, yes.
and Chair Shaw.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
Now let's move to item next is 6B, status report of current art projects.
At this time, staff would like to make a presentation on the update on some of the projects that the commission has been working on. One of the first things, before I go directly to the projects, I'd like to, since this program was provided to the community in October of last year, we had a very successful maquette show at the library. And we had a showing of the city's maquettes, which is a part of the public art collection. So the collection of maquettes are small models of public artwork that we have in the community. So with that in mind, we thought it was time to share this asset with the community and to show up close what the art pieces are like. We allowed the general public to come in and touch the art pieces so they can feel the fine details as well as the different materials that the artwork is made of. We especially wanted to share this with those community members that were visually impaired and allow them to enjoy the public art program. We presented about 12 of the city's maquettes, And these were showcased with the help of commission members, staff, and volunteers. And we were able to explain individually to our community members the history maybe behind some of the art pieces, why we had them, and also we guided them through certain details and aspects that we felt were important to showing the artwork. I want to give thanks to the Fine Arts and Historical Commission for their support of this program, and to our commissioners, Villaluna and Caldwell, and our former commissioner, Janet Beach, who volunteered their time and knowledge of the different art pieces, as well as to Carrie Carrata of the library staff and her other staff members and volunteers to assist us in the program. The Cerritos Library and staff would like to provide this program again in October of '24, which is known as National Disability Month. And we would like to promote this program and hopefully get more attendees to share this valuable asset that we have that I don't believe very many museums, or I know other cities don't have resources like this. So this is something that we're very proud of, and we want to share and let the community know that this is part of what the city owns, and our residents are part owners of this also. With that, I'd like to bring a couple other items to your attention. There was a request and interest in knowing the status of the public safety artwork. We have been working on this project for several years now. It's a very extensive project that will be in the central part of the Civic Center. I've been working with the team, the artist and his staff on this. The foundry has now completed 2 of the 3 major figures of the project. The 3rd figure is due to be cast in the metal in March or April of this year. The artist team is also working with the stone cutters and engravers on the walls and the stone monuments for the project. Unfortunately, this area where the stone work is taking place is in Vermont, which is suffering from very horrible snowstorms. And so that is delaying the project. But we're confident that, in a few weeks, we'll be able to set some dates and parameters on that. The team is also working with the different trades, the concrete contractors, the landscapers, and the installers to finalize dates and plans for the installation. The artist team and city staff will be working together to ensure compliance with local ordinances and building codes, and also to coordinate the installation activities that will occur at the Civic Center complex. At this point, we are believing, and hopefully we are moving in the right direction for an installation of the project and the plaza, the artwork, the walls, the landscaping. Installation should be complete in the summer of '24. Several other projects we've been working on is another art piece, Molding Our Future. was evaluated and approved by the commission in July of last year. The council approved it in August. The art piece is an existing piece, and it can be shipped as the city demands. But at this point in time, staff is in the process of analyzing the sites in the sculpture garden for placement of the artwork. And once the placement has, the specific site has been selected, then we will be working with the landscape architects and the designers as to the design concept that will complement the art piece. Several months ago, we started work on evaluating the artwork for a potential cow to represent the origins of the city. And we reviewed 2 concepts several months ago. A third concept has come in, and I am trying to make contact with a 4th artist for a concept. And I believe I might be able to bring something with the next 2 concepts at the next meeting in March. So that concludes my update on our projects that we're working on. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions on this that the commission may have. Thank you.
With regards to the maquettes, I don't know if I expressed my apologies for not being able to make that. I believe I was dealing with COVID at the time. But as far as the other 2 projects, do we have a more detailed date or summer? I know we have summer for the this year for the public safety, but what as far as the other one? Do we have a more defined date?
I think I believe that Molding Our Future could be installed prior to that time. The cow art piece, you know, that will be a while to complete that one once it's approved by the commission and the council. So I would think that's at least a year out, because we have to go through the approvals. And then also, since that would be a commissioned art piece, we would have to have, you know, the contracts developed, as well as the artists working with the foundries to complete the art piece in the metal. And then actually, we don't even have a location set for the art piece either, for the cow art piece. But I think, so that would be the furthest one out. Molding Our Future will be done could be done within the next 6 months.
Motion, well, do we have any other comments?
No,
Then motion to receive and file.
Thank you.
You should call for public comments.
Oh, you need it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
No, it's not about this, right? So basically, yeah, I think, did you receive my email about the public comments on the first responder? You got it, right?
Yes, we did receive your public comment.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I want to know whether it works, because most of the time, I think commissions don't get public comments or emails, so sometimes they are missed. So I want to make sure that it is.
It was read into the record. Thank you.
So thanks for the update. So I think this is definitely a cause for celebration. I think a lot of people, residents were been wondering, right, what happened to the first responder, because it has been going on from, from some of the things I mentioned to you, March 2019. So we'll be completing 5 years. And by the time it installed, it is more than 5 years. And I'm not trying to blame anybody. What I'm saying is that this is where I think sometimes, we have to be little bit more effective. Because my question is that, how much would it cost by the time we install in July? Okay, and no, let me finish it, right? Because I know that last time, as I mentioned, right, 2021, council increased the budget from 250 to 500K because of the inflation fears. And now we are 2024. You know where inflation is going, right? So I won't be surprised if the price probably goes, I hope it won't go above 500K. But still, these are all some things I think we have to be cautious with spending, how this general fund or, art in public places fund, even though it is a art in public places fund, I think we can be a little more, cautious and responsible. So I wonder, what if we could have done this before our council member Edwards passed away? I know this was one of his pet project too, and how much did it have cost? How much did it have saved? And I think I heard some of the justification, but I don't think 5+ years makes any sense. I know government, red tapes, bureaucracy and everything, but 5 years for a project is mind-boggling. I just wanted to draw your attention so that, let us learn something from this and, not sit on this kind of projects for decades. And I'm glad to see that, COW project will be done. Hopefully, I don't know when, but because I didn't hear any date. Hopefully, it won't be 2028 or 2030, So let us move fast because, inflation is only going up. Prices are only going up, parts, labor, and everything, right? So I was very surprised when, last time, 11, 22, 21, council increased the budget from 250 to 500K. Just imagine. Even from that time, more than 2 years, and last year inflation was going through skyrocket, going through the roof. So I'm curious how much will be the end cost. And I think a lot of residents are curious too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that the final cost. And at the same time, I think I thank, for the commission to kind of, follow up on this. And I got a date, that is, I think it is definitely a cause for celebration. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Kathy, I see in the budget book that we had budgeted for 22, 23, 171,000, but the estimate for that same fiscal year is 226,000 for the Arts in Public Places Fund's revenue, the money coming into the fund. But projected for this current fiscal year, it's 171,000. Is it safe to assume that it'll probably the revenues coming in will be over what is budgeted based upon the previous year?
The revenues in the art fund are based on the new developments in the community, and it is 1% of the building permit fees. So it's difficult a lot of times to predict exactly what the fees will be coming in from developments. As you know, interest rates are rising, land costs. So development sometimes is stagnated due to those things. So when we plug in those figures as a projected estimate, those are those are just educated estimates. We don't really know what the specific fee is going to be until that building permit is pulled.
Okay, and the Art in Public Places Fund, the city council legally cannot dip into that fund for general budgetary reasons. Is that not correct?
The funds, the Arts and Public Places funds are for public artwork, maintenance and repair, and insurance, things like that, specifically pertaining to the artwork.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion to receive and file.
I second. I second.
Roll call.
Sorry. Commissioner Colwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Yes.
Commissioner Cobble,
Yes.
Chair Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Guess the last item, 7A, a report from the Arts and Historical Commissioner. Anybody? You have anything, Kelly, to reports?
I was just happy to hear about the recap of the maquette. That was, it was fun to work. I think that everyone who was in attendance really enjoyed it. But yeah, I look forward to more of those. I think it was a great idea.
Thank you.
I was wondering if that was shared with all the other schools, especially the elementary. What was the attendance for that? Because I think that would have been good for to be more publicized for local schools for the kids of Cerritos.
Yeah, what was the final attendance? Do you know?
I think the attendance was probably about 50 to 60 people, but we plan to, we've, gone over what we could have done better. Maybe thinking is even considering maybe doing it at an evening, what is our target audience? And we are going to be working, we have been in contact with Brian Tom, the gentleman that was at the show that is visually impaired. And he really appreciated what we did, and he wants to work with us to promote it next year with some of the organizations he's active with. So we're hoping, that this program will grow, because I think it's very important to share this and to address some of the needs of our visually impaired. I think it's something important for them. And I believe that the people that were there with their children were very excited about seeing something close up and being able to touch it, because usually it's like, you can't touch this, you can't, but we encourage them to feel the details of each of the pieces.
Right.
So I think it was a very good learning experience for a lot of people.
It was in some ways educational as well, because a lot of the people saw the smaller scale maquette and then didn't realize where it was located in the city, the larger.
Yes, they could
And
relate.
so, I think that brought some awareness to the diversity of the city and the different, interest points that maybe they could visit or look for the next time they're driving down that street or something.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So, Cabo, you have anything?
Yes. First, thank the city for the MLK event on Monday. It was, with regards to, it was held over at the Cerritos Performing Arts Center. And I realize you can't control everything that a speaker, especially a child, might say. So, but the event was well attended and was properly commemorative of the life of Dr. King. I'd also like to adjourn this meeting in memory of former Economic Development Commissioner Bob Buell, who passed away in December. His funeral is actually tomorrow. His funeral service is actually tomorrow in Long Beach.
Also, I attended, last week, MLK. It was well attended, and I think one of the young girl, amazing speech. It was very extraordinary, I think. She speak really, really good, and everybody liked that. Okay, any